So I would like to introduce myself first. My name is Melissa, and thank you everyone for joining us for our first ever BfE Technology Autumn Showcase webinar. I am a global technology event volunteer, and I work along with Bree, who is our global technology strategy manager, and Huen, our global technology event volunteer, who will also be assisting me in presenting the webinar today. So let me start by introducing BfE to anyone who is new to us. Bridges for Enterprise is a non-profit that provides pro bono advisory services to social innovators in the developing world. We have our flagship incubation program where we support early stage businesses with existing revenue and a clear mission to create social impact. We are a global community, so we already have 5 student chapters around the world, a client base spanning over 30 countries, and a growing network of over 200 professional mentors who provide strategic guidance. Our technology team empowers BfE's incubation program through analytics, algorithms, and automation. They also develop web applications that connect our global community and share BfE's internal resources with the wider social impact and startup community. So overall, the purpose of the webinar today is for you all to get to know BfE Tech better, and for us to have a more transparent communication on the projects that the tech teams are working on. We want the rest of the BfE to have an informative understanding on what happens behind the scenes and to get a better idea on what may interest you or what you may want to be a part of down the line. So to give you a brief overview of the webinar, we will be hearing on 5 projects that are currently underway in BfE Tech, along with some exciting non-tech projects that will encourage more engagement. On the slides, you can find an overview of the presenters that are going to be speaking today. There will be a 5-minute break, don't worry, during the webinar, and we will end the webinar with a Q&A. After the webinar, I would just like to mention that you will receive a feedback form. As this is our first webinar of our future planned webinars, we would love to get your feedback that will help us in the future. So it would be great if you can fill it out and send it back to us. This webinar is also being recorded and will be uploaded to our BfE channel. So without further ado, I would like to get started, and I would like to introduce Brenda, our Global Products Manager at BfE, who will give us an overview of all the projects.
Okay. Thank you, Melissa, and good afternoon, everyone, for those in London, and good evening to those in Singapore. Today, I'll be sharing an overview of BfE Technology Division's first product, which is BfE Portal. So a little bit of background on why we are creating this product as a one-stop information management system for all our BfE-wide operations. So one major reason why companies use information management systems is because if we manage the information from different departments in isolation, we won't have a clear insight into what other departments are doing or be aware of what resources are available to coordinate the various processes seamlessly. So similarly in BfE, we also face the challenges of not having a proper information management system. So shortly after the product department was set up, we did a preliminary user interviews to find out that there are actually 3 main business challenges. So firstly, there is no centralized place for internal information access. Our various departments use a variety of different applications even if they are managing similar types of information. As you can see from all the tools that we use right now on the left side, Airtable, HubSpot, Streak, Slack, and G Suite, which makes it very difficult to access information from outside of our own departments and integrate them together for better insights. And secondly, our BfE global heads, managers, and chapter directors spend many hours doing repetitive manual tasks, especially during the recruitment seasons, that can be easily automated. So since the different departments use tools, all current data is stored in silos without synchronization or integration. So having identified these challenges, we thought that it will be really amazing. Next slide, please. If we could have an internal BfE portal to provide a centralized information hub, including useful tools and learning materials to enrich our members' experience across all departments of BfE, to automate tedious manual processes and enable BfE members to do more meaningful work, and also to allow members of BfE across the globe to easily connect with one another and build a BfE community. So we have a vision that our BfE technology products will be able to empower BfE members to serve the wider social impact and startup community more efficiently, effectively, and effortlessly. Next slide, please. In our current product roadmap, our portal includes an integration of 2 main applications, one using an existing tool called Coda and the other Admin Portal to develop it in-house. Coda will be used as our centralized information storage systems and a work management tool. We have a BfE Information Hub as a centralized database of all information across the entire organization, BfE Academy to provide learning and training for our internal members, BfE Directory to connect with anyone across BfE, and BfE Memories to record our achievements, milestones, and celebrations. Coda will also be used to manage BfE internal products, and each chapter, as well as the global team, will have own workspaces to manage their tasks. And our admin portal will serve to automate user access management, as well as stakeholders, including those of startups, volunteers, and partners management. We also aim to use it to enrich BfE experience through customized applications for onboarding, applications, and even a quiz app for our internal learning. Next slide, please. To drive these products, we have 3 currently operating teams of really passionate and awesome volunteers pioneering the development of these very first and new products of BfE technology. One being Coda Pages Design and Launch PM project, database migration, and last but not least, admin portal UI UX projects. Our customized applications are scheduled to be developed in phase 2 of our roadmap. So after the ideation and prototyping stages of our products, we'll also be hiring more talents to contribute to the software development of these products. So do look out for those opportunities in the future. Next slide, please. Next, the impact that we, the product management and design team create is really huge and meaningful because we're able to directly contribute and also pioneer the implementing of internal tools that are used across entire BfE organization, enabling BfE leadership and members to save a lot of time in tedious manual tasks, improving accessibility to information across all departments, and creating customized BfE experience for members and startups alike. It's often really rare to have the work we do directly impact organizations on a large scale like this, more so to be able to contribute to the 0 to 1 journey. And beyond the BfE community, through these tools, we streamline procedures so that our BfE teams are able to serve more startups around the world more effectively and transparently. And through these tech projects, we are providing students and young professional volunteers with meaningful experiences in real-life impactful projects. Next slide, please. Before I end, I would like to give credits and show my appreciation to our technology volunteers, Megan and Jerica from product team, and Min and Ashley from UI UX team under Ian's leadership for making really valuable contributions to our first step of product journey. And beyond BfE product department, there are also other departments doing really exciting things. And now I'll pass on the time to Hua to share more about the next exciting project.
Thanks, Brenda. That was a great overview of all the projects. Now we will hear from Hua, who is going to tell us more about the Investor Selector project.
Cool. Hello, everyone. This is Hua. Thanks for your time joining this town hall. The project I'm going to introduce is called Investor Selector. This was mainly done by 3 of our team members, Xuehui, Xiaodong, and me. And we also collaborated with a lot of members outside the team, such as the finance team led by Jordan. So big thanks to them. To begin with, next slide, I will just give you some background on it. In BfE incubation programs, there are many of them need to find proper investors for our startups. Originally, the entire investor selection process was pretty manual. There are like thousands of potential investors available online, and we have to search those we think are suitable based on some fundamental criteria such like size, region, and industry. Then review each of them line by line and identify a list of investors which might potentially be matched to the startup. This is a very time-consuming process. So as a result, if you click, we came up with this Investor Selector project, which will construct a database to hold all the information we have collected for the investors and develop a natural language processing model to predict which investors are closer or more similar to our startups. Hence, it will then speed up the whole decision-making process of matching our investors to the startups just based on the results and the model predictions. Okay, next, let's talk a little bit about the methodology inside this project. In general, there are 2 phases, data collection and algorithm development. At the very beginning, we didn't really have a database of all the data we need to build a model. So the first important step is to set up a standard. What kind of data we want to collect and how are we going to collect them? This part is more like paperwork. We write some documentations on the schema, and then a lot of people involved to help us collect all the descriptions in a JSON format. This is a little bit boring stage, but you just have to go through. Once we obtained enough data, we move to the next step, which is to design and develop a ranking algorithm. There were a lot of experiments completed in this stage about how to clean the data, the choice of models, the evaluation of our models. We developed an evaluation strategy based on the actual portfolios each investor is holding, and kept the NLP model, which gave us the best result and resource balance, because sometimes you may have a model which gave you a slightly better result, but just much more resource consuming, like a larger model size or more time to train, which is not worth it. So the final workflow is just that our algorithm will take the operational description of the startup and then compute the similarity scores of each investor in the database, and then output the top N investors which we think are most fitted investors for that startup. Then the finance team can review those, and if they are not happy with the results, they can just keep going through the list and so on. So then the next slide, impact. These projects will actually consist of two different stages. The one we did is the first stage, which produce a model that we can use to help finance team on the investor selection process. This can save their time and effort and also maximize the funding opportunities for the startups. For the next stage, we will still need to develop the whole pipeline into a real microservice, which will then integrate into the web application. And that is actually the web application, the admin portal we mentioned at the very beginning of this town hall. We are going to integrate all the tools we developed in a central place, which will be pretty cool, I think. So just quite looking forward to that as well. Okay, so that will be all my section. I hope you find it interesting and get more insights into what the algorithm projects are like in BfE. Next, I will just hand over to Edwin to talk about the database.
Thank you so much, Ro. It was very interesting. And as mentioned, yes, we'll move on to database migration presented by Edwin.
Oh yeah, thank you. I was wondering if I could take remote controls to make it easier. If not, then no worries. But okay, I'll just go ahead and start. So hey everyone, my name is Edwin, and I'll be presenting the database design project or database migration that's still going on today. Next slide, please. So what is this project and why do we need it? So Brenda talked earlier this session about the BfE portal. So with a centralized information hub like that, you better believe there's gonna be lots of data in there. So because of that, we want to think of the infrastructure of how we want to store the data. And once again, as Brenda mentioned, as BfE is now, there's no centralized location for data. So this means if I want to request specific information, let's say some 2019 engagement, for example, I would need to go to that chapter or consulting group and ask them where I can get that info so I can look at it. And then once I get it, and as I'm looking through the engagement, I notice the people involved, such as BfE members or mentors, and I want to learn more about their background. But since that specific data about people isn't there, I would need to go to a different group to request for that information. So that could lead, to something visually like this, but mentally it could feel like a scavenger hunt trying to get information piece by piece. So if only there was a better way to streamline this and organize the data. But there is, and that's what this project is about. So the goal of this project is to take the data from all these spreadsheets and applications you see here and store it into this SQL database. And for those unfamiliar with SQL databases, you can loosely think of it as a spreadsheet on steroids, since data is stored in tables, but it will be more structured and easier to determine relationships between each other. So it's way more efficient and painless than using VLOOKUPs everywhere in Excel. And MySQL is just Oracle's open source version of a SQL database. So with the database in with all the data in MySQL, we could then interface it to Coda for people to view, and then finally integrate it to any of the BfE's end user applications, such as the admin portal. How are we doing this project? So phase one is database design. So we determine what we want the database and tables to look like, and then we want to keep in mind how tables relate to each other, how we define columns and data types, and apply normalization, which is just to reduce any redundant data from appearing multiple times in the database. And you may notice that we're starting here in Coda, even though from the last slide, we started off in MySQL. So we're doing it like this because we want to focus our efforts on design without worrying too much about the MySQL syntax. Since we're starting off with there's plenty of times where we need to create, delete, and alter tables and columns to meet our needs. And Coda is especially helpful in phase 2. So Coda is more intuitive to enter data than SQL is. But before we even can enter the data, the project team, as well as other amazing volunteers, will need to review the source data from the spreadsheets, and then they can clean and sanitize the data. So a quick example, what that means is, say we have a few people from the United States, but on the application, they put different aliases for country names. So one person puts USA, another person puts United States of America, and the last person puts America. So instead of putting like those different values that mean the same country in the database, we just want to input something like United States of America for everything. And that is what they're trying to catch and consolidate. And then once we have all the clean data, we can then input it to all the appropriate tables and columns in Coda. And then the last phase, phase 3, will be just for us to create a script, create and execute a script to help create the MySQL tables, as well as populate them with data using the Coda API. And what's next after this project? Once the database is up and running, like previously mentioned, from the diagram, we can integrate this database to other applications to access and manipulate data for their use. We can also apply tools for the database, such as auditing, monitoring, or analytic purposes. And last example is like an analytic dashboard where we can view the data trends and metrics in real time. So I want to end my presentation to recognize the amazing team that involved in helping making this project possible. We have Showei and Charlene as the team members for the database development and for dealing with me this whole time. We have Kanchan as the project manager for keeping us on track, because without her, we can easily be distracted, or at least I would. And last, we have Kevin for being Kevin and providing his insight and expertise on the processes and workflows of BfE. And then I want to give one final shout out to everyone helping with the data clean tests and inputting the data. And that's it. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Edwin, for your informative presentation on the database migration. We will now hear from Kevin on the exciting GitHub page.
Thank you, Hui-Wen. Thank you, Edwin. So hi, everyone, I'm Kevin. I'm here to talk to you about our GitHub page template project. Yep. Next slide, yep. Sorry, I have. I think the remote control is not working properly on my end. So before we have this project, it really started from a problem that's persisting in BfE. So BfE, as people have mentioned just now, is a very decentralized organization. We have student chapters across different regions. And whenever someone wants to put up an information page or a website for BfE to feature their particular chapter, for example, we were presented with basically two solutions. One is a no-code solution, such as Google Sites, Wix, WordPress. Those kind of solutions are very time-consuming to set up from scratch. And most importantly, because they are limited by the UIs provided by those companies, it's quite difficult and often impossible for them to comply with standardized BfE branding guideline. We also have the other solution, which is to develop a full stack app for whichever website that we want to set up. And it will require a team of tech people to do it, obviously, and that can take up quite a lot of time. It will be quite costly to keep the servers up for those websites. And also the ongoing maintenance is going to be a problem, especially since BfE Tech volunteers are, after all, volunteers with quite high turnover rates. And BfE is fundamentally a consulting organization, so there's certain limit in the size of our tech team that makes this impossible. So the solution we came up with for this project is to make use of GitHub page. The whole setup that we have been looking at is basically to have a centralized BfE GitHub page template repository that would capture all the common layouts and components that are commonly used across different BfE websites, such as buttons, image block, text block, and whenever someone needs to set up BfE website, all they need to do is to spin up a GitHub repository to serve this particular GitHub page, making use of the template repository. And in that way, they can set up a very simple website with only markdown files, which is essentially text files. And the way they can set up websites, for example, in this screenshot I've shared here, to specify different HTML templates they want to include in a particular order, give them some parameters, and using all the pre-existing BfE themes components, we would have a BfE website set up. And this is a very sort of plug and play way of playing with HTML templates, and it allows for easy adjustment and maintenance of content through specifying the text you want to have in the child markdown files, such as in the last line with this text/getinvolved.md. And what if I have more complicated needs? I want to develop a more advanced website. That's also possible on the GitHub page. So all we need is someone building another website using the GitHub page template, but then specifying the specific layouts and components they want for that particular purpose. So there is flexibility for advanced usage. There's very little surprise in terms of deployment and serving of the website because it's all handled at GitHub's end. It's also very easy for us to recruit developers on this, especially student developers, because the only prerequisite is HTML and CSS. And at the same time, people developing this project can get exposed to advanced tools such as Docker for local development, and also there are opportunities for them to explore front-end code management tools as well. And finally, if we recognize certain layouts and components developed for specific websites are really good and should be shared across more than one website, we can bring it back via commit to the template repository, and then every other website will be able to share it. The other advantage with this setup is that it's very easy for us to incorporate new UI and UI frameworks and graphic designs across all BfE public websites as well. So right now we have Tailwind CSS and Glyphs icon set incorporated into this template. We are also working to integrate this with Storybook, a tool we are using to standardize BfE's brand UI components. And that's synced to BfE's central UI system, which you will see more about in a later project. To summarize what I've been saying, this project has basically been looking at a low-code to no-code solution for easy deployment of public-facing BfE websites. It gives student chapters and BfE teams autonomy in creating their own websites, even if they have little to no coding knowledge. And it allows for flexibility for us to have multiple websites serving different kinds of target audiences as well. And it also has the advantage of helping us unify all the UIs we are using for different public-facing websites. And it helps to convey BfE's professional brand message while allowing customizations for addressing different target audiences. Last but not least, I just want to give a shout out to the amazing team members who are involved in this project. That's Peter Young, student from University of Cambridge, and Julia Go, student from University College London. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kevin. That was a great presentation. So before we move on to the next speaker, we're just going to take a quick 4-minute break. If you wanted to get a glass of water or stand up or stretch anything before we move on, I will announce very soon when we will recommence the presentation. Thank you. Hi, everyone. I think let's deep dive right back into it. So to introduce our next speaker, it's Pranav, who will talk about the React Django project.
Hi guys, I'm Pranav. I'm the Global DevOps Manager, and I'll be talking about the React Django project. So just a quick check, I'm audible, right? Yeah, okay. So let's start. So well, I'll start with what were the issues which led us to pick up this project. So the issues were student developers were facing a lot of difficulties in setting up the environments to start developing. Then the next task was normally students found it difficult to work with new technologies like React, Django, which discouraged them from contributing to BfE. And to add to this, confusion arose when students needed to use certain BfE components like authentication and newer standardization used at BfE, which made it more difficult. And finally, the last point was we were using old technologies like WordPress, which was unattractive to some volunteers and which led us to have a less number of volunteers. So I think that's why we have decided to start using React Django for most of our new projects. So to give an overview about my team, there's Echo who's working from Singapore. There's James who's from US. There's Omar from Italy who's also the global DevOps manager along with me. There's Hua who's working from London, and Chandan is also from US, and I'm from India. And there's also Kevin who's helping me with a lot of things. And I think this presentation was also made by him. So that's about the team. And to give a quick one-line overview about the project, so what we are doing is we are trying to set up a centrally designed base React Django project, which is Dockerized and has storybook integration, which links to a central UI system, I think, which Ian will talk about later. And it also contains some helper and security functions to help the new volunteers. And it also contains DevOps pipelines for automatic deployment to speed up the development process. Yeah. And the next slide, so the project deliverables. So there are three things in it. One is on the DevOps front. I think the previous slides are, yeah. So one is on the DevOps front, one is on the front end front, and the other is on the backend front. So for DevOps, what we plan to do is we need to set up automatic deployment pipelines, which deploy both our front end and backend on Azure, and which also considers how our databases are committed, how our databases are being used, and how how they are synchronized with each other. On the front end side, we need to have a React project setup, and it should also be integrated with Storybook for faster UI development. And we also need front end side helper functions like validations, API requesters, and those kinds of things. So basically, it should make it easier for new volunteers who want to start contributing to React code at BfE. And similarly, on the backend side, we need to have a backend folder setup. We need to have some sample endpoint setup, which the new volunteers can look at to create the new endpoints. And I think Brenda mentioned we are using Coda for BfE from now on. So we also need API endpoints which have the Coda integrations done. And finally, we need backend side helper Django functions again for validation, for security checks, and all those things. Next slide, please. Yeah. So to give a brief overview about the current state of the project. So right now, the front end side is almost complete. The back end side is just a little part is pending. So what we need to do now is integration, and what we're working now is we are working on integrating and documenting the project. And yeah, I think that's about the current state. And the impact, I think, is going to be huge. Like it's going to serve as the base project for all future React Django projects at BfE. And it's going to handle how some of the most important functions in BfE Tech works, like from UI to security to storybook integration to DevOps, and it's going to make developers' life much easier, even to new developers who come up the project, and also for other current developers who are working on the project. So I think that's it about the React Django project. Thank you.
Thank you, Pranav, for the interesting presentation. Now on to our final tech project. We'll hear from Ian, who will be speaking about the UI system setup on Figma and Zero Height.
Thank you. Hey, everyone. Next slide, please. So as previous speakers have said, we are working on building a central repository of design assets that we can use across all websites that we create. And as we expand, we'll be creating more and more websites for different chapters or different departments to prevent custom elements from being created every time, and also to help future designers who we onboard. I believe this sort of a system is going to help us a lot. So this system is going to exist on two sides, one in Figma, where we have all of our assets created and easily accessible in sort of a plug and play format. And then also in Zero Hide, where we'll have documentation of how these assets can be used and instructions of how it can be expanded in the future as well. Helping us achieve this project, we have Laura and Brenda, who have been super helpful in the entire course of this project. Next slide, please. So to accomplish this, what we did was we started with our existing marketing website, so bridgesforenterprise.com, analyzed all the elements used over there, and started documenting them in Figma. So we were able to have a good head start with this, looking at the colors, buttons, other UI elements. And we also identified some elements which were not yet used, so they did not exist. We took this opportunity to create some of these elements, and Laura has been creating all of these elements with different states, as you can see in the example on the lower screenshot. The next step was to document all of this into Zero Hide, and I believe we're almost done with it. I would say we are 90 to 95% there. So each of these elements has instructions of how they are to be used, any do's and don'ts, which will help all future designers. Next slide, please. So what is the impact of this project? Well, it will definitely help reduce the creation of new assets every time a new website needs to be rolled out. So we can work much faster, maintain consistency. I think the first project that will be using this design system will be the GitHub templates project. So we'll be able to test it there, expand on whichever areas are not yet complete. And then we'll be following similar processes for the members portal project as well. That's about it. Passing it on to you, Kathy.
Thank you so much, Ian. Kathy is actually just having a little trouble joining the meeting. So we are going to come back to a section, hopefully. So we would actually move to Juan, who will talk a little bit about mentor engagement.
As you have, so tech is an extremely diverse division, and we have heard projects involving software development, UI, UX, analytics, DevOps, and many more. Tech is a very diverse place, and our community reflects this. So most of our volunteers join with various levels of experience, normally in one category. It is our aim to create an environment where our volunteers can broaden their ideas about tech, be exposed to people directly working in other fields, and have a chance to directly engage with them. Similarly, we recruit mentors through BfE who have valuable experience over one or many technical disciplines. We want to facilitate an environment for our professionals to share their knowledge. We are planning a series of tech events designed to increase the conversation about tech at BfE and throughout the community. At an info session, speakers will provide insight into a field of tech, a current trend in tech, or a project within BfE. We are also planning to discuss the technical advisory projects at BfE, so we can promote the technical work we are doing directly with startups. At career sessions, we will invite relevant professionals from related fields to present their journey as well as insight into their particular role. Senior roles in tech rarely have a predictable pathway, so we hope that these talks will benefit members of our community and increase their confidence in working in the tech field. And tech debates are an idea where we can take a popular idea in tech and bring it to experts to discuss it. As well as being incredibly engaging, debates are a great way to get insight into how experts are thinking. And it will be great to stimulate more tech discussion. Have you ever wondered about the benefits of Microsoft Azure over AWS? Seeing two DevOps experts break it down will be invaluable. Ultimately, at BfE Tech, we want to create an environment where we can share ideas, share knowledge, and collaborate. Tech events involving volunteers, mentors, and the wider community is the way to facilitate that. So we can stay tuned for 2022.
Thank you, Juan. Unfortunately, Kathy doesn't seem to be able to join, but she did send me her script, so I will read it out to you. Juan, if you wouldn't mind just going back to her slides. Thank you. So the Technology Leadership Fellowship Program has been developed to help BfE address a few issues we experience when recruiting and retraining volunteers. We often don't get enough experienced students or professionals and find we need more leaders with a stronger technical base. We may have people who are strong leaders, but we don't have enough technical experience or people with strong technical experience, but not enough soft skills needed to be a leader. So we have developed this program to help build leaders in our organization and offer an opportunity for students to continue to grow and gain valuable experience needed in business. The program is optional and is intended to only add a light load on top of current roles. The volunteers in this program will have roles in BfE that are leadership focused, like a project lead, chapter director, or a global manager position. We have several technical modules developed that can be taken to build technical skills in areas that the leader is not an expert in. As well, we have a number of leadership courses being offered to strengthen soft skills, like communication courses and project planning courses. There will be a minimum requirement for courses to be taken throughout the year period. We have also mentorship sessions built into this program for leaders to connect to a minimum of 3 times in the year with professionals in the industry. At the end of the year period, the leaders will present on their experience throughout the year period and review their skills gains. The leader will be provided a certificate of completion and an achievement celebrated on BfE Tech website. Please reach out to your BfE Tech management talent team if you have any questions or interested in the program. Well, I would like to thank Kathy, but unfortunately, I will pass it on to her. So that actually wraps things up for all of us. We've heard from all our speakers from the tech projects, and we've heard from our non-tech projects. So just to kind of end everything, before we move into Q&A, I would like to just thank all our speakers for their time and for sharing their projects with all of us. I would also like to thank our audience for all of you who have joined from all around the world to listen in. We really do appreciate your participation in a very big milestone event for us and one of many more to come. I would like to remind everyone of the feedback form that you will be getting very shortly, and we would really appreciate if you could fill it out and send it back to us so we could better improve if there is need to improve for future events. Now, I would like to open up the space for any questions. You may unmute your speakers, your microphones, or you can enter your questions in the chat box and we can direct it to any speaker in the event. If you do feel a little shy, feel free to still email us any questions and we can pass it on to the necessary leaders and they will be more than happy to get back to you. So I will like to open up the space for any questions now. Sorry, before we move on, Kevin did have a little bit more to say about the fellowship program.
Anyways, thank you, Melissa. And yeah, it's quite unfortunate. So Bree, our strategy manager, and Kathy, our program manager, have actually been working really hard to prepare the slides and the program that was presented in the last 2 sessions. But unfortunately, Bree encountered some accidents today, and Kathy was not able to join for technical reasons. So I thought I would just provide a little bit more insights to why we are doing the Leaders Fellows program and why we are doing all these tech events initiatives in BfE. I think if you are listening to this talk, you are probably already part of BfE Tech or are thinking about joining BfE Tech, something we value a lot in BfE Tech is how our people can gain developments through the experience working with us. And so we're not just so yes, at the core of our work, we are an organization that's using all these tech tools to help our social entrepreneurs and deliver our social impact. But we also recognize that everyone is doing this out of our own precious time, of our besides our schoolwork or besides our full-time work. And we really want the experience through BfE project to be something that's adds a lot of value to you, be it from the technical point of view, from the kind of perspectives you get by working with a diverse range of people, or maybe even just to add something to your portfolio. The rationale behind the Leadership Fellows program is really to allow people who are very experienced and advanced still to be able to still gain something out of the BfE experience. In particular, we are emphasizing on allowing people to get exposed to technical disciplines that are outside their current work. So if you are a software developer who's already really experienced and a BfE project isn't enough to stir your interest, there are additional learning opportunities for you to learn about algorithms, machine learning, or to learn about how to present your tech ideas, how to communicate with investors, even if you want to start a startup in tech. Those are things that are actively under development in BfE. And our events, our speaker series are also designed in place to help you connect with the wide network of tech professionals in BfE, all of whom are people with various experience in tech and people who are very, very passionate about entrepreneurship, about making a social impact in the world. And if you get to join BfE community, that's something that we'll definitely try to deliver to you. And if you're already part of BfE, we hope this is adding color to your experience here. Yeah, that's the additional points I want to make. I'll pass it back to Melissa.
Thank you so much, Kevin. Yes, so I will open it up for maybe about 2 more minutes if anyone has any questions they want to ask. Always that little awkward silence, waiting if anyone wants to say anything.
Hey, Melissa, this is Edwin again.
Hi,
I was just
Edwin.
curious, what's the status of all the projects as of today?
I will open that up to any of the top project leaders if they want to answer that question.
And just to start off, just for mine, my database design project, we're in phase 2 of the 3 phases. So we're still in progress.
Brenda, do you want to give maybe an overview, and then I guess each of us can then answer on behalf of our own project?
Oh, okay, yeah. So for Coda, we're currently still in like ideation and prototyping phase, and it's scheduled to end by December. Around mid-December, we'll be having entire BfE town hall to go through all the features and prototypes and get user feedback. Yeah, after which we will move into development phase from around like end December. So basically just next year onwards. Yeah, it will be development phase until around May next year. So that's where our phase 1 will end for the entire product roadmap, both for the Coda and also admin portal projects. Yep. Thanks for the question, Irene.
Yeah, maybe so on my end, the GitHub page template project is outside the scope for the admin portal, but for us, we have set up and tested the basic template repository and set up some websites. And right now we are in the phase of moving our Tech.BfE website into that setup, as well as setting up the integration with Storybook, which is a bit tricky because it involves our DevOps team as well. And once that's set up, from next year, we are looking at March or even earlier onwards, we will start looking at migrating our current BfE.com website into the setup. And we expect that to maybe take a year or so because it's currently of a lower priority compared to the projects at Brenda's end.
For the investor selector project, I think the algorithm part is done. So basically for next stage, it's going to do the integration, but I suppose that will only happen after the admin portal is done, because that's more like a phase 2 of admin portal. There are some other more important features that need to be worked on.
Yeah, and for the React Django project, like the React part is almost complete. The backend part is done. What we are now working on is integrating both of them and writing documentation.
On the UI component system, so the creation of the elements is completed by Laura. What we're doing right now is writing the documentation that will go into Zero Height. I believe she's about 90 or 95% done. I'm also reviewing the content to see if everything is fine. After that, we can publish it.
Oh yeah, and on the Leaders Fellowship, most of our global managers who are also present today have very heavily completed most of the training modules. So we already have a range of modules on UI, machine learning, React Django, all available in BfE Academy. We are currently finalizing, I believe, our leadership courses that sort of teaches tech people how to present themselves, how to write reports, basically how to communicate with business people. And we are also starting to look at working with a selection of mentors who will be able to join this program and help to mentor our student directors and project leaders. Maybe for the tech events plan, I will pass it back to Melissa.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Edwin, for the question. If there is no more questions to be asked, then I think we can wrap up the webinar. Yep.
I just have
yes,
I don't have a question, but I have a comment. But yeah, I just want to say a big thank you to everybody. I think it's really thanks to Kevin and every one of you. I think the tech team has done an amazing job. So yeah, I think you guys have really grown from strength to strength, and your contributions are very, very valued by the whole organization. So yeah, big shout out to everyone here. Yeah, thanks so much.
Thank you so much. And we definitely mirror the same comments as well. Thank you, everyone, and special thank you to the whole tech team for putting everything together and all your hard work. So we look forward to more catch-ups like this happening in the future. And from Bree and Juan, myself, and Kevin as well, we thank you all for your time today, and have a good rest of the day wherever you are in the world, and a great weekend. See you, everyone.
See you.